Good morning to everybody. My name is Denny Reagan. I'm President and CEO of the Muny, and those were some snippets and scenes from our 99th season, which was wonderful. But what we're here to do today is to make an announcement regarding the 100th anniversary season. First thing I'd like to do is welcome you all here today, and I'd also like to thank you all very much for coming. Today's announcement officially begins the celebration of a century of theater, tradition, and community that have all happened right here in St. Louis. We are here to celebrate the fact that over the past 100 years, 56 million people have attended a show here at the Muny, and 10 million of them came at absolutely no cost through our free seats and our community relations programs. We celebrate 6 generations of families who have made the Muny a part of their summer tradition, and we celebrate the fact that 100 years after Mayor Henry Keel declared this is the home of musical theater in this city, that the Muny remains a place where St. Louis families come together each summer. So, we have an incredible lineup of shows, and we've also got some wonderfully exciting events that are going to be happening over the next year, basically. And what I'd like to do now is just invite Kofi Coleman, who's our Director of Marketing and Communications, to talk to you a little bit about the events. Kofi, come on up.
Good morning. My name is Kofi Coleman. As Denny said, this is a really exciting time here. It's an incredibly exciting moment. I think I speak for my colleagues in the room when I say that we're all incredibly proud to be a part of this moment in the Muny's history. In a few minutes, Mike's going to come up here and tell you the 2018 season lineup, and it's really good. I'm not just saying that because I work here. It is really good. But before we do that, there's a little bit of business. I do want to tell you about a few events that are happening to help us kick off the 100th anniversary season. You can't celebrate something like this without throwing a party, and in Muny fashion, we're going to throw a few parties to celebrate this. So on Friday, May 18th, the Centennial Gala will be held here. The plans include completely transforming the campus to a really unique setting for a gala. The highlight of the evening is the on-stage show, which is we're calling A Night with the Stars. It's a show that's being specifically created for this night. You all have seen the work that Mike, Megan, Tracy, Tim, that team puts on the stage. So to know that they're making a new show just for this evening, it's going to be something that you don't want to miss. Tickets for this show will be available beginning November 1st online at muny.org/100. There's a lot more information about the show, about the gala that you can get there, but again, tickets for the gala will be available November 1st. One of the unique things about this place, and Denny kind of touched on this in his remarks, is that this place has always been somewhere for everyone. So with that in mind, we want to make sure that folks that maybe cannot attend the gala can still experience the show. So we will also make tickets available for the show part of the evening for the general public to purchase, and those will go on sale in spring. So again, for the full gala experience, red carpet, glitz, glamour, dinner, and all that, those tickets are available November 1st, and then we will also open up the rest of the house for the show later on in the spring. So that's party number one. 2 days later, on Sunday, May 20th, we will have a community birthday party. We want to throw a party for the people that have supported us for 100 years. The Muny's 100th anniversary is certainly a community accomplishment. It's not just something that's happened on these grounds. It's happened throughout St. Louis. So we want to welcome everyone in to celebrate with us. It's a free event. It will feature live local entertainment. There will be backstage demonstrations from all the craftspeople and the people that make the magic happen on stage. There'll be a food truck roundup. Of course, there will be cake, because what is a birthday without cake? And people will have their opportunity to have their 15 minutes of fame. We're going to have a number of mini musicals that we put together on stage throughout the day. So it's a moment for families to come out. It's a moment for former employees to come out. It's a moment for all of St. Louis to say that this is something that we're celebrating together. So again, that is Sunday, May 20th, 2 days after the gala, and that will be held here as well. In June, the Missouri History Museum's exhibit, The Muny Memories, will open. They have been putting in a ton of work over the past couple of years. I don't want to go into too much detail and spoil the surprise, but I do want to say this. I've worked here at the Muny for 20 years, and I get to sit at the planning meetings when the History Museum team is talking about this exhibit, and every single time I leave, there's something that I learned about this place that I didn't know before. So the research that they've been doing, the exhibit they're putting together is something that I would highly, highly recommend you check out. And again, that opens in the beginning of June of 2018. Our friends at HEC TV have been putting together a documentary piece, which will also air in the spring. A lot of great interviews. They've been shooting backstage in front of the house in the community for the past couple of years, and that will air on their network starting in the spring. It's another really great look back at our history, and we're looking forward to seeing that as well. And finally, Judy Newmark with the Post-Dispatch has been publishing monthly articles starting in August about the history of the Muny. Anyone in this room probably knows that between Judy's wealth of information about theater and the archive that they have at the Post-Dispatch, these articles have been not just informative, they've been incredibly entertaining. I think we're through the 1920s with the 30s coming out next month, so we all know how the story goes, but it's something to definitely check out. We really appreciate that support, and links to those stories are available on our website, links to the History Museum exhibit, the HEC TV documentary, and of course, our events are all available at muny.org/100. So please check that out. Stay connected with us. Check out the emails. We will keep giving you information about the 100th anniversary celebration as it comes along. Okay, so after we do all of those things, we are then going to have a season. I know that you're all here excited, ready to hear Mike tell us what this lineup is. So I will turn the podium over to Mike Isaacson, our executive producer and artistic director. Thank you.
Hi. If you've been when I've spoken before, I'm a pacer, so I'm going to pace. I'm very grateful you're here. I want to begin by echoing, to begin, sort of what Kofi mentioned of it is such an unbelievable honor to be a part of this moment. This theater, 100 years. It's the tagline, we are the oldest outdoor theater in the country. We're also the second oldest theater in the country. When you take an indoor, this community, our ancestors, created this, wanted it, preserved it. Multiple world wars, a depression, vast social cultural change in the last 100 years. Every summer, here we are. Here we are gathering. There are no words for that, other than you can come up with it. So, you're going into the 100th with that as a background, no pressure, right? And it is a moment and a season we've been talking about for a long time. And in creating it, I began with what is the unifying idea? What is the thing? And looked at it from multiple ways of all the composers and all the artists and all the decades and what it transformed and what would be the overarching idea. And the more I did that and came up with those lists, and there are file folders full of them, thank you to my interns, every time I looked at it, what the results were, it felt diminished. It felt smaller than what we are, which was really confusing to me. And then when I stood back and really thought about it, in 100 years, you're never one thing. We've been on a constant journey of evolution. We have been in a constant response to a community that's been changing and growing and finding itself. The American musical theater has transformed through that. So that actually took the pressure off, because I realized the genius and the mystery is we are many things, and we will continue to be that for our audience, in our audience, as an institution. So then we were able to look at certain ideas that felt consistent, that felt part of who we are no matter where we are. And they're not specific, but they are what I would call undercurrents or undertows or realities of our specialness. And so I just want to lay out a few of these so when I actually get to the list, you'll see how some fit, some don't, but sort of this comes together. What What's interesting what emerges, first of all, arguably, depending on how you want to have the math, 6 generations of St. Louisans have been coming to the Muny. And when you look at our season, when you look at the 7, you'll see that 4, arguably 5 of the shows are about 2 major themes: home and family. Finding a home, creating a home. The challenge of a family, forming a family, being a family in the midst of changing times. These are ideas that when you're sitting in a theater that solely belongs to you or your parents, your grandparents, and you've all been a part of it, really resonate. Second one. The Muny's made a lot of history. Great history. History that matters to Broadway and the American musical theater. We've been a part of the development of incredible artists. We've had amazing performers. And we have a special legacy at that artistic level. And we wanted to make sure that in the season, we created 2 moments of history. And in the season, you will see there are 2 shows that we will be the first theater in the United States to produce after Tony Award-winning Broadway runs. That is a huge testament to this legacy and to this audience. The third thing, and this one's sort of personal, but it's real. The American musical is our gift to the world. We got 2 in this country, jazz and the musical. Ours, we created it. And this institution for 70 years has been part of the lifeblood, has been part of celebrating that. There is a uniquely American flavor to the idea of the musical. It is a mongrel form. Different elements come together. And there is an American spirit, an American drive, and an energy that is reflected. And when you look at this season, it's that. I'm not jingoistic, but when you look at everyone who ultimately is involved in this season artistically, we are celebrating the greatness of the American musical. The other thing we called upon was, let's go for it. There is a craziness and boldness to a Muny production that we produce work that's unlike any in the world, any in the country. And we wanted shows that were big, bold, absolutely thrilling. We wanted to use the power of the talent, the power of the stage, the power of what the Muny can do that nobody else can do. So these shows are big. And finally, sort of echoing again off of what Denny and Kofi said, arguably, this is the most important. I believe that when you look at this season, no matter who you are in St. Louis, there is literally something for everybody. It sounds like hyperbole, but this is the people's theater, and it always has been. The 1,500 free seats, the access, the generations. That is unique to the Muny. And you see it in our programs, you also see it in our survey methods. That is a direct connection to people saying who they are at that moment and what they want. And also the way it worked out, of these 7, 3 were in the top 10 of last year's survey. So nothing specific, but things to think about as you week in. Not yet, Joe. Okay, we're gonna head into the first one. So when we're here, we deal with a lot of the past. And when you're doing a 100th year, there's a lot of past. There's an artistic legacy. And when you look at the classics of the American musical that have lived on our stage by our greatest composers, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Lerner and Lowe, Leonard Bernstein, I wanted something that was the embodiment of that. What is that show that we could honor the past of the people sitting in the seats and the past of all the greats who've been on the stage? It's a pretty high bar. And it was a real challenge, particularly if you look at the shows we've done in the last 5, 6 years, we've done a lot of the great classics. And it really weighed on me. What is that show? What is that show that we can celebrate that legacy? And it was literally a lightning bolt moment. The challenge is, we're not going to do one of them. In a sense, we're going to do them all. And I'm going to begin going to the shows here. This is not the order of the season, the way I'm going through them, although I do believe we are going to open our season with this show, Jerome Robbins Broadway. Tony Award-winning Best Musical in 1989. The Muny is the first theater in the country to produce it since its Broadway run. It is a collection of some of the greatest moments. Jerome Robbins was Broadway's premier director and choreographer at the epicenter of the greatness of the American musical, post-World War II through 1964. And it is a polyglot of extraordinary moments, including the back half of the first act is West Side Story Suite, 5 numbers from West Side Story, Fiddler on the Roof, We're Gonna Fly Peter Pan, Those Sailors and On the Town. It is the essence of the birth of the American musical, coming forward in the stage in a grand, robust way. Why hasn't it been produced since Broadway, you may ask? Because it's huge and really hard. But the Muny can do it. And I have to acknowledge some people here because the show, in sort of a legal sense, kind of didn't exist. And we've spent 18 months going to literally everybody involved in the original work and saying we would like to do this. And I need to acknowledge the following people right here. Christopher Pennington of the Jerome Robbins Foundation, Ted Chapin of the Rodgers and Hammerstein Organization, Stephen Sondheim, Margaret Stein, June Silver, and Sandy Stewart, Sheldon Harnick, Paul Epstein and Marie Carter of the Leonard Bernstein Estate, Sarge Aborn of Tams Widmark, and Phyllis Newman and Amanda Green. All of these people are either part of the estates or the living authors of these great, great works, and have said, yes, we want the Muny to do this and have it be a part of the 100th. Okay. There's another show I've had my eye on for a while that we've been talking about that we kind of thought, let's hold that out for the 100th. It is a spectacular show, and we have not done it in 36 years. It comes from a world that is a big part of our Muny history, that we've celebrated in other ways. But we were holding it out for this moment because we felt the 100th was the time. Let's hit it. The Wiz. We're going back to Oz in this extraordinary way. This was a Tony Award-winning Best Musical in 1975 with an incredible score by Charlie Smalls. The Muny has been working with the original writers of the show and also the composer's son. He has given us rights to his father's catalog, and we may be inserting some new songs into the show. One of the most extraordinary scores you've ever heard. Home, Can You Feel a Brand New Day? Do You Believe? Do You Believe? If You Believe, there we go. Oz is about home. Oz has been part of the Muny history for 100 years. This beautiful, exciting, vibrant version of it is, again, when you look at families, there's a lot this season you can bring the whole family to. So we're really, really excited to bring this show back to the Muny stage. Next one. Sorry. Sorry, Joe. This is very true. People come here to work, right? And they're here if they're here for their first time, actors, designers, whomever. And they're here for a couple days, and inevitably I get this. This place is amazing. This is unbelievable. Like what? And one of the things that I've learned is the Muny is a mystery. It doesn't have answers. The job is to tend to the mystery, and the mystery just keeps going, right? And here's the way I describe that mystery to people. Okay, here's the list. Outdoor theater, massive productions at a level unlike any in the country, 12 rehearsal days, 10,000 seats, 3 orchestra reads, impossible odds. At any logical level, the Muny makes no sense. Seriously, it makes no logical sense. If you put that down as a business plan of like, hey, we want to start a new theater now, let's do this. It's not going to happen. You're crazy, right? But it has existed for 100 years. Why? It is because people love it. That's a quality I can't define. We all sit there, we feel it, right? There are American musicals that reflect that spirit, that sort of incandescent, like, this makes no sense, but I love it. And it is truly a unique, I call them joy machines. And there is one show that is a true joy machine that has been a part of our past that we are so excited to bring back because it also blows a lovely kiss to our environment. One of the most beloved film musicals ever. And is there anything more uniquely iconic or American than a soaking wet man singing in a rainstorm? It captures something so special about who we are. As you all know, the Muny has a grand and glorious tradition of the family show. And what that means, it's the show that so many people for generations in St. Louis, it's the first one they bring their kids to. It opens the door. It creates the magic. I always say to the cast of those shows, this is our greatest responsibility. This is what we have to create. Last year, for example, The Little Mermaid, we had 91,000 people who came. That's extraordinary. I'm going to pause for water. Hang on. Sorry, Facebook Live. When we look at the history of our Muny family shows, for many decades it was a very short list, and then Disney came into the game and really increased that catalog, and we're very grateful to them. We had 2 Disney shows last year, in fact. But there is one show that is a really interesting part of Muny history and reflects both our past and, in a sense, our future in terms of creating new audiences. You know, in the 40s and 50s, before sort of the advent of touring Broadway, many shows came, the touring Broadway shows that now play the Fox came to the Muny. It was sort of, that was part of, that was a chapter in the Muny, and for example, the Tony Award-winning musical Follies left Broadway, came to the Muny, and then went to Los Angeles. I mean, we have these really epic moments. One extraordinary thing, a testament to the Muny and its audience and what it does is in 1978, in 1977, Annie opened on Broadway, and it was the wicked Hamilton of its day. And the first national tour went out, and the first city it played was Washington, D.C., but in the middle of that run, they took 2 weeks off, they left Washington, D.C., and they came to the Muny. Ever since then, Annie has been at the Muny every 5 years. We have not had it on our stage, and here she's back. The other thing that's really important to know about Annie, it's deceptive. In the American musical, you have this history of occasionally shows coming along right and hitting a public mood. Hello, Dolly opened right after the Kennedy assassination. Mamma Mia was right after 9/11. Annie, when it opened in 1977, was at the end of the Watergate scandal, and America was still recovering from the Vietnam War. And there was something very powerful and strong that affected audiences of literally this little girl standing up and saying, nope, we've got it tomorrow. We're going to move forward. Deep in the American character and in the Muny is the idea of optimism. So it's going to be a thrill to bring that back to our stage, and also in terms of sort of Muny legacy and history, it is a show now that's been a part of lives of grandmothers, mothers, and daughters. It is beloved. So that's going to be our big family show. Speaking of great shows, one of the things that is, when we talk about our legacy in the American musical theater and greatness, there is one musical that is generally considered to be, arguments are made of, if not the greatest, the top 3. That it was the forces of a post-World War II musical, the book musical, the Rodgers and Hammerstein tradition, coming together in a way that was beautiful and alarming and fantastic and dramatic, a true landmark musical. I believe, I'm partial, like I'm saying, the American musical is our gift to the world. We do Shakespeare. For the next 100 years, other worlds, other countries are going to be doing American musicals. It is what we are sending out. It's a fact. This musical is recognized as one for the ages. In a sense, it is sort of the musical Our Queen Lear, and it is the unbelievable Gypsy. Music by Julie Stein, book by Arthur Lawrence, lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Again, the story of a family trying to figure itself out at a moment of great change. And arguably, in a real nod to our incredible Muny Orchestra, known for one of the greatest orchestra overtures ever written. Do not be late for this one. You need to hear the overture. Tying to the idea of let's make a little history this season, we wanted a big surprise. And so probably more than a year ago, we reached out to a Broadway colleague, a friend of ours in the Muny, who acknowledges that he is a crazy dreamer. And I called him and I said, I have this crazy dream. Would you consider letting the Muny be the first theater in the country to produce your Tony Award-winning, Olivier Award-winning, Grammy Award-winning musical that at that point was still running on Broadway and still on national tour? And he laughed and he said, well, you know I love a crazy dream. And it's incredible acknowledgement to St. Louis and the Muny that we will be the first theater in the United States to produce Jersey Boys. Again, yeah, go for it. You know, this is a music of a generation. This was a sound that was a part of people's lives. How amazing to have that on the stage. And again, it is a story of family. It is a story of a brotherhood, trying to figure out what those losses are, what that strength is, who they are. It's bold, it's American, it's amazing. Can't wait. And I want to acknowledge Michael David for really supporting us on this. And finally, okay, the one that was sort of tipped off, but we've been holding it back for the 100th because it is just simply dear to us. It is part of St. Louis's definition. It is part of our cultural heritage. It is part of a film and a story that has gone out into the world that has defined St. Louis and what our values are and what our struggles are, even in 1904, and it is right. Again, the original source material that the film was based on was about a family life in St. Louis. And literally it is a beautiful story of a family confronting change and the idea of parental sacrifice. How do we define home? Who are we and what matters to us? I can't think of a more beautiful message to have a part of this season. I think I hit the time limit. Did I hit it? Oh, okay, so there we go. Do we have a thing with all 7? Hit it, Joe. So there we go. 100th season in the Muny. Throughout the coming months, we'll be announcing the schedule, what show is where. We will also have many exciting ideas and casting announcements and things about each particular show that we were working on right now. And the other thing, as I would say on behalf of, Denny and the board and everything, we have some other surprises planned to be announced, hopefully within the next 6 to 8 to 10 months. I think for all of us, this 100th is a moment not only to celebrate this unbelievable accomplishment of the people of St. Louis, but also to propel us into the next 100 years and to make sure we're here for the next generations of St. Louisans. I think I'm concluding, and I'm thanking you for coming, and thank you for coming.